Despite having a quiet first few years in the NBA, Julius Randle turned into someone who was at first looking like a bust, or a player who can't fit in the modern NBA, and became a star seemingly overnight. He led the Knicks to their first playoff appearance since 2013, averaging 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. But the most famous part of Randle's game may have been his blow-up from three-point range. Just 2 seasons ago, Randle made 1 3 per game while shooting 27% from the field. Now he makes over 2 per game, averaging 41% from 3. One of the biggest season-to-season changes of the 3-point in NBA history. While at one point he may not have been very deserving of this rank, now he can be seen as a steal compared to some of the other guys above him. So without any further ado, let's get into it. These are the 6 players drafted before Julius Randle.
Lakers battling, but the Suns control. Booker on the move.
With the first pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Andrew Wiggins.
Andrew Wiggins, one of the most hyped prospects since the King himself, came into the draft as a near perfect prospect. A freak athlete with a high defensive upside, strong finisher around the rim, and a jump shot that scouts were loving as it was quite polished coming out of college. Wiggins' career started off well as expected. Not game-breaking, but he was still the top of his class, averaging 17 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, winning Rookie of the Year. Next year, Wiggins bumped his scoring up to 21 points per game, and by year 3, Wiggins was averaging 23.5 points per game. He was also playing 37 minutes per game while starting all 82 games that year. Pretty impressive for someone to be playing that much. But Wiggins would never reach more than that, only averaging 18 the next few seasons. Tied to his massive contract and not exactly living up to his expectations, Wiggins was shipped to the Golden State Warriors, where he continued to produce at a solid rate. This was arguably the best season of Wiggins' career though. He had his best win shares per 48 rating, his best offensive and defensive ratings per 100 possessions, his best true shooting percentage, and also shot the best from 3-point, making 38% of his shots while making 2 threes per game. While the career of Wiggins may not have been that generational talent we all once thought he was, Wiggins took a few years, but this season he looked fully adjusted into the Warriors system and the modern NBA. He was an efficient scorer, a lethal outside player, and was living up to some of the defensive hype we thought he would be. At the age of 25, the story is not yet finished for Wiggins, and if this shows anything, he still has a lot of room to get better.
With the second pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Jabari Parker from Duke University.
It's weird to think about just a few years ago, it was Jabari Parker, not Giannis, who was supposed to be leading the Milwaukee Bucks to the finals. And at the time of 2014, how could you not think that? Averaging 19 points and 9 rebounds coming out of Duke, Jabari had been on the basketball spotlight for a while, and scouts saw his game when it came to his ability to create his own shot and score from all 3 levels of the court, while being able to rebound at a high level. Unfortunately, that is about all that we saw from Jabari Parker. 25 games into his rookie year, Jabari tore his ACL. And the second season, one of his few healthy seasons, did show promise, however, averaging 14 points, 5 rebounds, shooting nearly 50% from the field. But it was in his 3rd year when things really got going for Parker. The best season of his career, where he kept up that same efficiency, but now averaging 20 points a game. But on the 51st game of the year, Parker once again tore his ACL, missing the remainder of that season. Parker would then miss most of the next season as well. From that point, the Bucks had moved on, sending him to the Chicago Bulls. Parker would then move on from the Bulls to have small stints with the Wizards and the Hawks. All during that time, he was averaging about 15 points per game, but during these times, after his trade to the Kings last season, Parker has continued to suffer with injuries. Even now, we only saw Jabari Parker play 13 games last season. Unfortunately, it looks like injuries have taken away from this thought to be great scorer. From time to time, he has still shown his potential to contribute and be able to score and rebound, so I hope he can find a team and a situation where he can still score and contribute in some way.
With the third pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Joel Embiid.
Joel Embiid was the first true superstar chosen in this draft, but headed into the draft, he was seen as one of the most intriguing prospects out of everyone. Embiid had shown off tons of potential and growing basketball experience quickly while being a completely freakish athlete. But reports say that he had only started playing basketball only 4 years before the draft. That means you've likely been playing basketball longer than Joel Embiid. Just think about that for a second. And along with being just a raw prospect, Embiid has also had a bit of an injury history, making him a bit more of a risky prospect. But nonetheless, this did not scare away the Philadelphia 76ers as they chose him with the third pick. Although we did not see Embiid start that year, as he missed the first 2 seasons of his career with a foot injury. But he picked up stride just like anyone else, immediately becoming a force in the league in his rookie year. The very first time he stepped onto an NBA court, Embiid completely took the league, scoring 20 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists in only 20 minutes of game. It was at this moment that the 76ers knew they had someone special. Only 2 years later, Joel Embiid was averaging 28 points, 13 rebounds per game. To this day, Joel Embiid still remains one of the best post players in the league, even drawing comparison to the Dream himself. And he is coming off of another 28-point, 10-rebound season.
With the fourth pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic select Aaron Gordon from the University of Arizona.
Aaron Gordon was another raw prospect in this year's draft. Scouts saw the potential for him to finish above the rim and become an elite defender on the other end, but he was also incredibly weak offensively, playing like a more typical power forward, but this was a little before the power forward became as small as it was, and he was more often seen as a small forward. Gordon struggled his rookie year, only averaging 5 points per game. Gordon would eventually adjust to the NBA by his 4th year. Aaron Gordon became a solid defender and a more consistent scorer, making 2 threes per game while shooting 33%. With that, the Magic awarded him with a 4-year, $76 million contract, but we would not see him play out that full contract in the Magic uniform. Gordon wasn't living up to his 2017-18 season, and this season, we saw the Orlando Magic completely blow up their team, and one of those players being Aaron Gordon as he was traded to the Denver Nuggets. While some of his stats may have fallen off, I actually believe this move benefits both Denver and Gordon well. Gordon has become an elite defender and has actually had one of his most efficient seasons ever when it comes to shooting and scoring. The power of Denver's offense means that Gordon doesn't have to rely on his own ability to get to the basket and can score in a more natural way, and I think he should have an easier time scoring in Michael Malone's offense. And of course, the Nuggets are also getting an amazing defender, someone they sorely need. And of course, I cannot mention Aaron Gordon without talking about just the greatest dunk contest of all time, and yes, where he was robbed by Zach LaVine.
With the 5th pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select Dante Exum from Melbourne, Australia.
Foreign players are often a mystery when it comes to the NBA. While some explode into some of the best we've ever seen, some go out with a blur, never to be heard from again. At this point, Dante Exum is not one of those stars. He was projected to be going higher than 5th, as the Sixers acquired Nerlens Noel the year prior, so there was a bit of a consensus that the 76ers would want to pair him with a guard, and the top guard of this class was seen as Dante Exum. Little was known about Exum being an Australian prospect. There was a lot of hype, but not always a lot of film to match with it. He was seen as a great playmaker, athlete, finisher, and defender. But scouts also feared of his ability to jump between the Australian League and the NBA, and most importantly, add on a 3-point game to his arsenal. Exum scored 5 points per game his rookie season, following that up with 6 points per game next year. The best season of Exum's career was when he averaged 8 points and 3 assists before an injury cut his season short. After that, he was shortly traded, having small stints with the Cavaliers and the Rockets. This season, Exum only played 6 games, but he did manage to qualify for Team Australia, winning a bronze at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. But at this moment, Exum's NBA career is in jeopardy.
With the 6th pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Marcus Smart from Oklahoma State University.
Our final player is Marcus Smart, the top US guard of this draft. Smart was easily one of the best prospects in the league, averaging 18 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, with 3 steals per game at Oklahoma State. Smart was seen as having plenty of defensive potential and being a solid finisher around the rim. And of course, we all know him for his insane effort, high motor, and competitiveness rival to no one. But he did have a small turnover problem and a lack of a 3-point game, and as a 6'3" guard, that did worry scouts quite a bit. But since entering into the league, Smart has been one of the best perimeter defenders, averaging a steal and a half per game even as a rookie. Smart quickly became an integral part to the Celtics bench, and in my opinion being one of the most impactful bench players in the league. Smart quickly grew a tendency to guard the opposing team's best player, regardless of size, and getting into their head. Smart has proved himself to be the kind of guy that every single team wants to have, but no one ever wants to go up against. But Marcus Smart still wouldn't reach his full offensive potential until the last few seasons, where he has finally developed a more consistent 3-point game and has expanded his playmaking. Last season, Marcus Smart averaged 13 points and 6 assists, making 2 threes per game, but that 39% from the field is also abysmal. But as I mentioned before, his impact is far more than that. And those are the 6 players drafted before Julius Randle. Every year, the draft shows itself as being unpredictable, where even the most surefire, hyped up prospects don't always work out. But the mystery of this draft seemed to have worked itself out years later, as we can now see that Julius Randle was a steal at the 7th spot. Alright guys, I want you to comment down below. I want to know where you guys would have drafted Randle and how would you rank him in this talented draft class. That's it for this one. I'll catch you guys later.